Now, Butch Goring was part of 4 Stanley Cup championships here in this building. He will not be part of this evening's game because Lorne Henning is the head coach of the New York Islanders as they are set to face off against the Minnesota Wild. Hi again, everybody. Alongside my partner, Tom Reed, I'm Mike Goldberg. We welcome you once again to Minnesota Wild Hockey Coliseum. First time the Minnesota Wild have ever traveled to Long Island. And they are set to face off against the New York Islanders. Let's check out tonight's starting goaltenders, brought to you by Ream Heating and Cooling. Derek Gustafson, a little bit nervous this afternoon.
Well, you can bet he feels the butterflies right now. The fact that he's been called up here just 48 hours ago, gets a chance to get into this situation. This is something he did not expect, but it's going to work, and it has to work for him. But his team in front of him has got to play better than they did last night.
And he goes against a man with a bit more NHL experience than he has, is John Van Beesbrook, 9th all-time with 368 career victories.
Well, he's also one of those guys that comes into this game with a lot of experience. And he's had some problems as of late. He's getting a little bit older. His knees bother him. His back bothers him a little bit. But he'll be a strong contender, I think, for the Islanders this evening.
Mark Jonette, Scott Zelkin, our referees, our linesmen, Anthony Saracolo and Lyle Seitz. And we are underway here on Long Island. Sergei Krivokrasov plays it for the Minnesota Wild. Aaron Gavey, a healthy scratch tonight for the Wild. Jim Dowd in the lineup. Fires the shot on Van Beesbrook. It's loose in front. And it'll be carried out of the zone by Big Kenny Johnson. Sent in by Bill McColt, the All-American from the Michigan Wolverines. Here's Roman Simicek. Simicek headmans to Cam Stewart. Zdeno Chara steps in. Islanders, the top hitting team in the National Hockey League, as Gustafson takes the first one on a short hop. Wes Walz behind the net. Walz headmans towards Laxon and Chara. And Kolnick will send it in. Uri Kolnick, a rookie who was a big scorer in the Quebec League the last few years. Ahead to Antti Laaksonen. Laaksonen turned over. Branislav Mozé, number 2, will play it. 20-year-old Slovakian. He has the puck at 6'5", 240 pounds. He and Chara, about 7-foot of defense right there.
Yeah, I tell you, this is a very big hockey club. When you look at their size all together, they're one of the biggest teams in the league. 6'2", 210-pound average. That's very big.
They're big, and as I mentioned, Tom, as you know, they hit on an average of 33 times a night. Eris Bermanis bounces it off the boards. Parrish is on for his first shift. Now he's off. And the Islanders try to work. Islanders coming off a very non-spirited effort against the Washington Capitals in an overwhelming 5-1 loss 2 days ago. Blue end to Gabrick, bouncing puck wide of Van Beesbrook. Cairns behind the net. Big Eric Cairns, another one of those guys at 6'6", 238 pounds. And he helps to move it out of the zone. Mariusz Czerkowski's the leading scorer. And Ole Kvasha has only 13 points on the year. Kvasha with young Tim Connolly, 19 years old, and Mariusz Czerkowski, who leads this team's offensive attack with 25 goals and 51 points. So that means Wes Walz on the ice with Laxon, and a penalty is going to be called as Wes Walz went to take a retaliatory swing towards an Islander who hit him from behind. He may have caught his own player in Willie Mitchell.
Well, Kvasha is going to go to the penalty box, I believe, for hitting him from behind, maybe a cross-check on the play, but this will give Minnesota the first power play of this hockey game. The one thing about this game is both these teams know the importance of getting that first goal in this game, especially for the Islanders. They don't seem to get the first goal. They seem to get down on themselves, and Lorne Henning, the interim coach, as he is right now, has told his team, we need to get that first one, guys, but you got to keep your spirits up even if we don't.
Well, he caught Willie Mitchell accidentally. Obviously, Wes Walz right in the throat area as Donnie Fuller attends to Willie Mitchell along with Rick Zuber on the Wild bench.
Well, sometimes those things happen. You don't realize where everyone is. It appears he's okay as he's on the bench right now. He's got a pretty good shiner from the other night when he took an errant stick. But he's in a position now that it doesn't look like he's going to the penalty or to the training room, so he should be all right.
Wes Walz just got hammered from behind, Tom.
Yeah, you watch here as the play unfolds, and you're going to see him as he gets a little bit closer to the boards. He knows he has to come back in, makes a quick turnaround, starts to go into the corner to help out as best he can. As he gets there, he takes that shot in from behind. and all of a sudden he was down, but Minnesota goes with the man advantage.
So Philip Kuba will quarterback the power play along with Lubomir Sekrish, Darby Hendrickson, Stacy Roos, and Aaron Gavey. Janssen ahead towards Martins, taken at the blue line. Sekrish a drive, and Van Beesbrook will hold on. Now let's take a peek at Wes Walls' stick catching his own defenseman, Willie Mitchell.
Right, you watch here as he comes back in to help out defensively. You don't want to get caught too far up in there. And as he comes in, watch, he's going to get hit right here. There's the push from behind. And you'll see as his stick comes up just a little bit. Tries to get that thing, and you can see right now the expression on his face. He knew, uh-oh, that was the wrong thing to do.
Now Walls is on the bench right now as the Wild have the first power play of the night. Willie Mitchell still being worked on in the bench area. Takes a little water on himself and looks like he's going to be just fine. Off the glass and out of the zone from the faceoff, Roman Hammerlick. Claude Lapointe in towards Sekrish. Going to be a high stick being called on the play. Be playing the puck off the high stick, so the faceoff will occur inside the Minnesota Wild zone. Jacques Lemaire, the head coach. Well, his worst fear unfortunately came true last night. He enjoyed the time in Jersey, but the game got out of hand, and I know that disappointed him. And Lorne Henning is the head coach for today of the New York Islanders. Ted Nolan's name being bounced around big time, as is now Pat Burns amongst those who could be the next coach of the New York Islanders. Lorne Henning may just be 17 games and out.
Well, I talked to Lorne a little bit today about the possibility of him taking the word interim off of his position. He said, you know what, we're not going to do anything right now. We're going to wait till the end of the season, and you know, with Mike Milbury, the general manager here, we'll talk then and discuss it and see what happens.
You know, the interesting thing about Lorne Henning, Tom, and you talked about it with Barry in the pregame show, here's a man who has spent most of his hockey life being a loyal New York Islander.
Well, he certainly has been, and the one thing he brings to this team is that experience. He's very low-key behind the bench, and he's trying to create some enthusiasm with this hockey club. They said he has been able to bring some of that to light right now, but he needs some time to develop with these players and to have that rapport as a head coach. As you look at Mike Milbury, the general manager of this hockey team too, has come under a lot of fire here from the fans who, you know, they want him out of here. They felt he has not done a good job here. It's a very difficult situation. He's building for the future. Injuries have not helped this team either. I think they've got over 300 man games they've lost just this year alone in injuries.
Nor have, in the bigger picture, unstable ownership helped this hockey team, and a franchise that used to be one of the proudest in the NHL. Gustafsson plays it to Bombardier. And now it's pushed into the neutral zone. Stacy Roos in towards Roman Hammerlick, and it's sent down the length of the ice by Kenny Janssen. 5+ losing seasons under Mike Milbury's tutelage as the general manager and occasionally the head coach of the New York Islanders. Dumped in by Bombardier. 36 seconds remaining on the first power play of the evening. Bombardier behind the net. He's with Gavey. Gavey was reported as a scratch. He's obviously in the lineup. Here is Darby Hendrickson to Stacy Roos. Roos gets to Lecision. Shot redirected in front. Gavey, Roos, shot. And the save made by Van Beesbrook.
Well, Minnesota doing a good job once again of getting the puck to the net, but also getting the bodies to the net. They had 3 different players who were in position there that could have made something happen. That was not to be the case here, but Minnesota coming very close. Mitchell's heading to the locker room right now, getting a little bit of assistance here also from Don Fuller, so apparently that injury is a little more serious than we thought it was. We're going to take a look at it once again from a different angle, and you'll see what happens here with the stick.
Walsh goes down here.
Goes down right here. Now watch where the stick comes. You can see right into the Adam's apple area. Now we've seen some players who have had their larynxes crushed because of shots to the neck in the last couple of years, and that's one thing you have to be guarded against. But there's no reason for swinging the stick like this, and no one feels worse other than Mitchell than Wes Walls does right now.
And that's uncharacteristic of Wes Walls.
Absolutely.
He's usually extremely composed.
Yeah.
Claude Lapointe intercepts the pass. It's cleared out by Mazet. Branislav Mazet, the rookie, the first-round pick of the Islanders, 10th overall, or a first-round pick. They've had so many of them recently with all the trades in '99. Oleg Kavasha moves in. Simichek wants it. Both teams are back at even strength. Lubomir Sekrish and Mark Parrish gives it back to Zdeno Chara, the tallest player in the National Hockey League. Parrish in the neutral zone. Laxinen leaves it off, and an offside will be called against Minnesota. Now don't forget, fans, Applebee's is going wild. Get your Minnesota Wild collector glass at any Minnesota Applebee's location. The glass features the inaugural season logo. Applebee's is a proud partner of the Minnesota Wild. You know, I think back to what's going on in the Twin Cities right now, too, especially St. Paul right now, Tom. They must be going wild with the state tournament.
Oh, I would think so. You can bet that that building will be full once again as they get ready for the final games tomorrow. And that's going to be fun. I hope to get a chance to go to some of those games and watch them both in the Class A and Class AA.
How about this, man? The good luck charm he hopes is that mask that he wore in college at St. Lawrence. Derek Gustafson. What a game that must have been, the overtime game last year. You were working the other regional, actually, weren't you?
I wasn't working that way.
There you go.
Wasn't too late.
Getting double pay doesn't work out that well.
No, it doesn't.
Off the face-off, Parrish tries to direct the shot towards the goaltender, Derek Gustafson. Scatchered the shot, and a stick save made by Gustafson. Here is Parrish. Parrish behind the net to Bill McCulp. He tries to wrap it around. It's played by Scatchard. Mazet, the shot goes wide, and Zdeno Chara steps up into it. Ladislav Benisic clears it up and out of the zone as the puck goes out of play.
Well, the Islanders doing a good job of forechecking there, trying to make some things happen here. And Minnesota finally just shooting the puck over the glass to get a stoppage of play. There's a guy you talked about, Chara, as you mentioned, the tallest player in the National Hockey League at 6'9", 225 pounds. And you talk about a guy who likes to hit. Yeah. 324 hits in the season. Nobody's even close to that. But he also has picked up 134 penalty minutes, and of course you're going to do that when you play physical. And looks, by the looks of his eye, who can reach that high to give him one of those shiners?
Some in the league would have to get a running start, wouldn't they? So Zdeno Chara, just a bit taller than former Minnesota Wild player Steve McKenna. That's 6'8", shot from the point. Gustafson the save, rebound in front, and Gustafson will hold on. So Gustafson will be the answer to a trivia question someday. What team did he first play against in the NHL? But our Treasure Island Resort and Casino trivia question here tonight is we would like you to try to name the 4 Islanders that have won the Calder Trophy for NHL Rookie of the Year. Name the 4 New York Islanders to have won the Calder Trophy for the NHL Rookie of the Year. Our Treasure Island Resort and Casino trivia question. Face off inside the Wild zone. Curtis Decision paired with Philip Kuba. Roost is on a forward line with Gavey and Hendrickson. And Gavey sends it back to Decision. Puck sent out. Eris Brahmanis there. Roost headmans to Hendrickson. Hendrickson tried to get it around big Eric Cairns. And Gavey picks it up. Gavey to Decision, and he just misses wide of Van Beesbrook. Now Tim Conley. Ahead towards Mariusz Czerkowski. Czerkowski scored against Minnesota, in Minnesota. And the game played at St. Paul, a victory as it was in January, 3-2 for the Wild. Shot saved by Gustafson. Point blank range on Conley.
That was a nice play by Conley. He took that little stutter step all of a sudden to cut the inside. Had plenty of room there. No one challenged him.
Here it's Walls, had it taken off a stick by Kolnick. The veteran Claude Lapointe. Bodied by Stewart. Cairns reverses direction. Laxinen. Ahead to Stewart. Stewart moves towards the backhand. With tall defenseman Tom come long reaches.
Well, that's a perfect play by Cairns there as he just is able to take that stick. As you mentioned, looked like Stewart was around him. But with that long stick and that reach, he was able to capture the puck away from him.
We've seen that already a couple of times from Eric Cairns, number 33. 5th year in the NHL, 3rd year here with the Islanders. He played with a bad hand most of the season. Played extremely well. Ladislav Benisic. Through the neutral zone with confidence. Gains the line, dumps it in, but Hammerlick will take it for New York. Hammerlick headmans. In the neutral zone, the Islanders leave it for Claude Lapointe. Lapointe spins. Leaves it back where Jim Dowd will step in towards it. Kolnick picks it up. Looks to feed to Taylor Pyatt. Out of midair, Lapointe on Kriva Krasov. A 2-on-2, a 2-on-3 with Bombardier jumping into the play. Dowd sees him, gets it to him. Shot save made by Van Beesbrook. As Bombardier once again looking for his first goal of the season. Wild representatives are standing by. You could be part of great moments like the Philip Kuba overtime goal against the Detroit Red Wings. And the Red Wings will be at the XL Energy Center Sunday. Our pregame coverage here on Fox Sports Net begins at 12:30. Bombardier touches. He's bumped on the play. Jason Blake started the year as a Los Angeles King. He is now a member of the New York Islanders, the former star at North Dakota. Blake is in on it. Gives it away to Craig Berube. Left behind the net towards Blake. Blake is out there with Steve Martins. Martins towards Berube, who has played over 900 games in the National Hockey League. Blake works it down to Martins. Lecision bumps him. Stick on the ice. Patera trying to avoid it. Gets it to Curtis Lecision, who'll flip it up towards Marian Gaborik, and you knew he was going to get bumped there.
Well, absolutely. You knew also that Bombardier was trying to get in a position to get a stick. That was his behind the net. And the worst thing you have is a goaltender without a stick. Second worst is having a defenseman without a stick.
Martin spins inside his own zone, dancing around and headmans nicely. Gets it to Mark Parrish. Parrish had it taken away. And now they move it to the neutral zone. Zdeno Chara plays it. Stacy Roost in pursuit. Roman Hammerlick. As the Islanders' Dave Scatcher, a former Vancouver Canuck, tries to move it out. He was a Canuck with Billy McCall. And here is Scatcher across the line. Kuba ties him up nicely. Down goes Hendrickson, and he picks his man right back up. Two Bloomington Jefferson players squaring off against each other, and Parrish and Hendrickson. I was teasing Mike Parrish before. I said, you're younger than Darby, so he must be your hero. Oh, absolutely. He was my hero growing up. Two good Minnesota boys on the ice against each other. Here's Mazzei across the line to McCulp. McCulp tried to feed it towards Gustafsson. Now it's Kuba. Laxinen will play. Can he get it out of the zone? Eris Bermanis is able to hold it in for the Islanders. Scatchard behind the net. Sekrish has Cam Stewart on the right wing. And Sekrish will bring it out himself. Here's Wes Walz. Walz, Stewart, and Laxinen start together here tonight. Van Beesbrook will lead for Kavasha. Cherkovsky has Conley busting through center. Marius Cherkovsky, a good back check by Wes Walz. He got the puck back for a moment, though, and Laxinen steps in. Looking towards Stewart. Cairns with the long reach. Couldn't touch it first as Stewart with good perseverance, and the icing is waved off.
Well, one thing about Stewart, he'll give you 110%, especially going into the corner trying to get those loose pucks.
And they're like the Energizer Bunny. Moved up to Cherkovsky. Through center, off the stick of Kavasha. Gustafsson leads for Bombardier. Bombardier slides it up past Aaron Gavey. A really good save against Conley here in the first period for Derek Gustafsson. And he has seemed to look at ease, and I'm sure as every moment goes by, Tom, that he gets to touch the puck, he feels a little bit more comfortable.
Well, he does. It takes a little time to get a read of the game at this level. It's so much faster, the skill level so much higher, and so you want to be very cautious. You want to play as solid defensively as you possibly can. You want to get certainly out of net to be in a position where you're going to get caught.
Nice defensive play by Sekrish, taking the puck off the stick of Cherkovsky. But an offside will go against Minnesota. Up and down action. And young Derek Gustafsson with a good save here for the Wild.
Wait. How would you have done playing in the Bubble Boys League?
Where is he? He's behind the net again. Go get him. We can't. We don't go back there. Look, his arms and legs are moving. He is smaller in person. Hey.
I think it'd have done pretty well.
What did he say? Let me at him. Go ahead. You're not going.
Report at 12:30 Central Time. And the city will be buzzing. And the Red Wings are playing extremely well. They have the longest unbeaten streak in the NHL this season of 13 games, Tom, and it just ended about a week ago on a loss at Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, they're number 2 also overall in the National Hockey League in points this year, and they're a team that certainly has gotten better since Chelios is back in the lineup, Eisman back in the lineup healthy. It'll be interesting to watch them play. They're a team that can score goals.
Speaking of back in the lineup, Willie Mitchell with Ladislav Benisic, so that's good to see. Shot towards Gustafsson, poked aside. No longer are the Red Wings old, they're experienced again. As Scotty Bowman has them playing very well.
You know, the one thing about Detroit, when you look at them, for many years they were kind of the laughing stock of the league at one point. All of a sudden now, for the last number of years with Scotty at the helm, this team has really stepped up and really have been rejuvenated.
For the New York Islanders, the struggles have been well documented. 5+ losing seasons for Mike Milbury as the general manager. If he does not stay with Lorne Henning, he will search for his 7th head coach during his tenure. They've had Goring, Henning's there now. Mike Milbury was the coach. Rick Bowness, Bill Stewart. Now they're talking Ted Nolan, and he may bring Mike Pekka with him. But the one thing in defense of Mike Milbury, prior ownership told him to slash and cut and stop spending so much money, and he had to give away some of the fine players that he had on the roster.
Well, he did, and he knew he had a job to do, and he tried to do it within that budget. And all of a sudden, what's happened here is that he's traded away players that really have gone on to other teams and that certainly have excelled. And so he has got to try and bring some things back right now. But his new owner here, Stephen Wang being one of them, has told him, you know, we're going to stick with you. We want you to do some things. He even went so far as to mention that Ted Nolan's name in an open forum for some of the fans.
Yeah.
And that was some of the writing on the wall, I think, for Butch Goring at that time, realizing that, boy, I may not have a job anymore. And it wasn't long after that he was let go.
Well, when Wang and Kumar came in this year, Tom, they brought a $10 million bonus to what was an NHL low payroll of $16.5 million last year. So with that money, they had a total of 11 new faces on opening night, including the signing of John Van Beesbroek. DiPietro was the top pick. You had Kavasha, Parrish, Hammerlick they spent some money on. They've had problem getting solid goaltending over the years. They've given up on some guys like Roberto Luongo, but they think this kid's for real, and they think this kid's the future.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, but I don't know if he's ready to play yet. He still needs that time to develop down in the minors. But this is a team that also, with the injuries we talked about, has decimated them with over 311 games. It was a total they've used 31 players in the New York Islander lineup this year compared to Minnesota's at 26. And that's a big difference. And as you get into this point in the season, you start to make those trades. They're talking about Mike Pekka coming here, some other things with Keith Tkachuk coming over here. I mean,
Jeremy Roenick.
It's all over the place right now, but it'll be interesting to see what happens before the trade deadline, which is March 13th.
Well, they have some money. As Gabrick moves in, a penalty will be called. Van Beesbroek solid as always, as he's able to make the save. Ironically, we see John Van Beesbroek, who had the 21 wins, to set the expansion record with Florida in 93-94. But we don't get to see Manny Fernandez try to pull one closer tonight against him.
No, absolutely. We're going to see a penalty going against Jason Blake out of Moorhead, Minnesota. Pick up a holding penalty. Picked up a shorthanded goal the other night in their 5-2 victory at Madison Square Garden. And he was away from the team for a couple days, went back home for some personal reasons. He got back in here this afternoon, and the coach said he was going to get him back in the lineup very quickly. And so Blake will serve that penalty as Minnesota will go on their second power play of this scoreless game.
Wasn't that long ago he was leading the WCHA in scoring just a couple of years ago with his 69 points in 38 games with the Sioux. He is here on Long Island. Started the year in Los Angeles, and the second power play of the night belongs to the Wild. It's Gabrick, Roost, and Pavel Patera for his passing ability. Kuba has it, gives it to Marian Gabrick. Gabrick to Patera, to the point in Kuba. A low shot, redirected in front. Patera quickly to Sekrish. Sekrish to Roost. Be nice to see Stacey Roost get one. He's had so many good chances lately. Roost is here. Lost it. Lapointe gathers in, and Claude Lapointe can't clear it out. Patera keeps it in.
Nice play by Patera to go to pick up the defensive position there.
Roost towards the point, Kuba, and it bounces off Chara's big legs and out of the zone.
Hard not to bounce off of that.
It's a big body right there. Gabrick strong. Marian Gabrick confident right at the blue line area. Gives it over towards Patera. Mazet holds him for a moment. Now it's Kuba. Sliding it back to Roost. Quickly over to Sekrish. Sekrish towards the net. Mazet swings it aside. Kuba, pass Lapointe to Gabrick. Gabrick looking for Roost. Now it's Kuba again. 53 seconds left in the power play. Gabrick with the puck near side. Top of the circles now. Kuba. Gabrick. Shot! Well wide. From the rebound off the backboard, Sekrish off the pad of Van Beesbroek, and this time the Islanders clear.
Nice play all the way around. Kuba over to Gabrick to let the shot go a little bit wide, but Sekrish had moved in from that point position, looking for a rebound or a deflection off the backboards, which he got.
Up and out of the zone comes Darby Hendrickson. Hendrickson fires it around, takes a bad care, and Van Beesbroek couldn't hold it. Kenny Johnson towards the point. It's now controlled by Bombardier. His shot fired wide. Davey to Bombardier again. Bombardier moves, fires it over to Darby Hendrickson. Hendrickson stops. Behind the net to Walls. Walls looks to center to Davey. Couldn't get the shot away. Bombardier to Hendrickson. Good puck movement, but not a lot of scoring opportunities. As the penalty time expires, here come the Islanders. Blake right out of the box. Picked up immediately by Hendrickson. Hammerlick walks in. Glove saved by Gustafsson.
Nice follow-up play with Hammerlick coming right in there. Of course, he leads this team in defense for scoring this year with 39 points. And he's a guy that likes to move into the offensive mode, to move into a position where he can get those opportunities. You watch here, all of a sudden Martin comes in. You'll watch now Blake comes out of the penalty box. He makes a little spin around here. He knows he can't go anyplace. Tries to drop it back to Hammerlick, who moves in, comes in, takes the shot a little bit quicker. I think that he thought he had more time. He took the shot a little bit too early, and as a result, Gustafsson able to hang on to it. You look at his record on the season.
Hammerlick traded by the Edmonton Oilers in the offseason for Eric Brewer and Josh Green. Last 3 years he was in Edmonton. Most remember him starting his career as the top overall pick to the Tampa Bay Lightning back in 1992. Here is Jim Dowd. Puck off the high stick of an Islander, so play goes right on, and Scatchard takes it behind the net. Dave Scatchard, 25-year-old from Hinton, Alberta, Canada. Dumps it on the backhand, and Willie Mitchell will chase it down. Mitchell probably happy that the wild trip to the Meadowlands is past him.
I'm sure he is.
As is Sean O'Donnell. Sean was saying yesterday, first you open with Ottawa, then your old team comes in town. I'll be happy when game 3 comes to me and we can just move ahead.
Well, there's a real transition that you have to make when you get those, when you have those trades made.
And the transition continues here tonight on Long Island. 4 straight for the New York Islanders. Their 4 cups coming in the early 80s. The Islanders, the Stanley Cup champions in 80, 81, 82, and 83.
And I'll tell you, Mike, that was a team, and if you remember them, how strong they were. I mean, that was a team that did everything together on and off the ice, and of course capturing 4 Stanley Cups in a row. That first one, and then the taste of that brought them to the second, the third, and the fourth. But the problem they had was they kept all the old players, and pretty soon those older guys couldn't kind of cut the mustard with the younger guys, and they started to falter.
And then those kids, Messier and Gretzky, invaded the area, and they ruined everything, didn't they? They were dominant at the end of the 80s. I don't think Tom will ever see a decade like that where you had 2 teams that basically ruled the entire 10 years of hockey. On the doorstep, Gustafsson's able to hold on. Walls was hit at the last moment by Marius Cherkovsky. And Gustafsson has looked solid. Treasure Island Resort and Casino trivia question. Staying with the history of the New York Islanders, we asked you to name the 4 Islanders who have won the Calder Trophy for NHL Rookie of the Year. Dennis Potvin, Brian Trottier, Mike Bossy, and in 1997, Brian Berard, who had the unfortunate incident with his eyes, and his NHL career is over.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Just about a week ago now that they announced that he would not be able to return. They're hoping that would not be the case, but he will take the settlement, step away from the game, and that's a shame when you have players of that caliber.
You know, it just compounds the problems that the Islanders have had. Some bad luck, although that was a trade they made to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that young man, Brian Berard, former top pick of the Islanders, being shipped away from Long Island. Kenny Janssen might be the next to go if someone's looking for an experienced defenseman here as we get close to the trading deadline. Cherkovsky, Gavey steps in, and Gavey headmans towards Roost. Roost can't chase it down before Hammerlick is able to gather in. Roost is able to get a hold of Hammerlick, though, and tried to center it up. Gavey's shot deflects off a couple of bodies. 5 minutes remains in the first period of play. New York Islanders and the Minnesota Wild are scoreless. Wild with 23 wins on the year. The Islanders with just 18. They are 0-2 against expansion teams and have lost 5 of their last 6 games. Claude Lapointe in the neutral zone. Sends it down to Bombardier. Bombardier, one of the many Wild players that are happy to be playing in the great state of Minnesota. Dowd ahead towards Kriva Krasov. And Lapointe has Pyatt looking for the man to headman to, and Kalnick. Uri Kalnick. Taylor Pyatt has good size. Pyatt 19 years old. Pyatt looks to wrap around. Pyatt with the strong reach. Lecision comes in and breaks things up. And Krasov brings it out. I had another one of those first-round picks in '99. Bluen almost had himself knocked away. Lost the puck, though. Mazet will take it. Can't get it past Mitchell. He'll try it down the boards. This time he's successful. Jason Blake, the first man to the puck. Shot from a bad angle. And once again, Gustafsson able to make the save. Now, we talked about Mark Parrish from Bloomington Jefferson High School. He shared with me some of his remembrances of the state tournament and how exciting a time that was for him as a youngster. We also talked about the return of the NHL to his home state.
Definitely, you know, when the North Stars originally left, I was pretty heartbroken, and being a big hockey fan myself, and when they got the Wild back, I was pretty pumped, and you know, it's great to see how the fans are supporting it, how the state's supporting the hockey back home. It's, you know, it's a big part of my heart still back there, so I like to see it.
Well, he was one of those guys who played so well at his high school level, too. And I know that this is a big time for all of those kids. You know, we talk about Hendrickson, we talk about Nielsen, those guys who have played at that level at the high school, and how important it is to be a part of that tournament.
Walls the shot. Rebound, Bluen misses just wide. Martins is there, and Walls bumped off the play. Martins gives him a shove. And now Walls tries to get back up and regain possession. Martins again behind Wes Walls. Steve Martin's a little gritty competitor as Marion Gabrick is worked over by big Eric Cairns. Mitchell at the blue line, and the puck is redirected off the glass. Bluen steps around Van Beesbrook. Now Sylvain Bluen with Erich Bramanis on him. Bramanis, a Cleveland, Ohio native. And Berube will take it. Craig Berube. Headmans gathered in, and we will have a whistle and a stoppage. Hockey back in Minnesota. Tom, you mentioned what a huge weekend it is, and don't forget the Let's Play Hockey Expo. Tomorrow at the Roy Wilkins Auditorium right next to the XL Energy Center. Many Wild players and a host of NHL alumni are scheduled to appear at the Let's Play Hockey Expo. The doors will open at 10 a.m. and admission is free. It was neat to see Mark Parrish. You could see his eyes light up in a big smile when he talked about state tournament time and hockey in Minnesota.
Well, he played his high school, also his college at St. Cloud under Craig Dahl up there, and had a tremendous year up there as a player too, and went on to the National Hockey League. And it's a great opportunity for a lot of kids, and they follow the high school level so closely because they know a lot of those kids who play at the high school level and get to that tournament are players that eventually have the opportunity to play with the professionals also.
Matt Cullen and Mark Parrish were a pretty good duo of players at St. Cloud. And Parrish and Cullen still are recognizable names up in that part of the state. Bouncing puck, Gustafsson slides it aside. 2:35 remains in the opening period of play here at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Loose puck in front. Here comes Stacey Roost. Roost has Darby Hendrickson. Hammerlick trying to get back. Roost, the drop pass, and the shot goes off a stick. And back the other way in transition comes McCult. McCult and Scatcherd. Sekrish drives McCult outside. Dave Scatcherd towards the point. Hammerlick a drive. Gustafsson the save. Puck was free and Scatcherd slid it through the crease area. Scatcherd has had a career best season as far as point production, and he fires the shot towards Gustafsson. He sweeps it aside. Derek Gustafsson has looked very solid.
Well, he's come up with some big saves here right now. The Islanders have outshot the Wild 11-10 in this first period. And as you mentioned, he's had some very solid saves.
Mariusz Czerkowski sends it into the zone. Gustafsson leaves it for Bombardier. Laxinen to Cam Stewart. Czerkowski on him. Mariusz Czerkowski with 25 goals, 51 points on the year. One of the lone offensive soldiers, Kavasha. And the puck moved out of the zone. Wes Walls tried to drop it back to Lecision as two Islanders were standing in his path. Now to Cam Stewart, and Stewart able to just get enough of a redirection on the puck to get it past the defenseman. Good up and down tempo to this first period.
Yeah, it really has been. You've got two teams that don't score a lot of goals, and so they're plugging here a little bit, knowing full well that they get one goal, they may get in the second goal here, but this is a team that has both these teams have struggled all year long, with the Islanders 150 goals and Minnesota at the bottom of the NHL with 144.
Now Gustafsson making his first NHL start against an old North Stars coach at Solid.
Well, you watch how square he is with the puck right here, and sometimes you get lucky. You're in a position where the puck may hit you, but that comes from experience also, knowing where to be. Even though you may not see the shot, you want to be in a position where you can be right there. You saw that little last save he made. He actually pass the puck ahead to one of his own teammates to move the puck out of the zone.
72 saves in that triple overtime game against Rick DiPietro. And Boston University of St. Lawrence advanced to the Frozen Four for the first time since 1988. What a week for Gustafson as Zach Burke got the first call up, Tom. You never think as the second goalie sitting in Cleveland, you're going to get a phone call a day later. But he is here, and he gets the start after Burke started for the first time in a Wild uniform last night. As the Devils kind of took it to Zach Burke and Minnesota. 40 seconds remains in the period. Down goes Cairns. Simichek was there. And now LaPointe tries to work it out past Kriva-Krasov. Sergei Kriva-Krasov, Mitchell shot, he scores! It was deflected in front, I believe, by Jim Dowd, and the Minnesota Wild lead 1-0.
Well, once again, you try to score the last minute of a period. Of course, you tried doing the entire period, but getting it near the end certainly gives you a little bit more excitement going into that dressing room. Jim Dowd was positioned perfectly in front of the net. You watch as the puck goes back to the point here. Mitchell steps up here, takes a perfect pass. There was a penalty going to be called on the play, but Dowd was just to the left of the goaltender, was able to take that puck and just deflect it a little bit wide, and as a result, Minnesota scores the first goal of this game. And this comes with just 28.1 seconds remaining on the clock.
So Jim Dowd, he would have loved to had it last night, but still not far from Jersey. He gets it at least on one of the boroughs. His 7th goal of the season at 19:32 of the period for the man who leads this hockey team in assists. And so the hard work of Jim Dowd pays off as he gets his first goal in 13 games, dating back to the game against the Pittsburgh Penguins on February 11th.
I think it was Krivo that got the the penalty was coming as a result of a high stick coming up and hitting him on the nose. He's taking a few hits here. You watch here, he's got it. And you know, really, this should be a major penalty or a double minor. And that should be questioned.
Yeah, it's a great point. It is.
Oh, it is.
Claude LaPointe inside the penalty box.
Yes.
So the question is answered.
Yes.
2 minutes, would have been 4.
Yep.
So they take the 2 off, give him the second 2. Nice job done by Jonette and Zelk and the referees. So a power play, it's number 3 as Roost has it. Roost tries to get it towards Hendrickson. So the Wild on their 3rd power play, they lead 1-0. There's a shot, score! Philip Kuba from the point, and it will be a power play goal for Minnesota.
Oh boy, how quickly it can change, and it does just exactly that for Minnesota right now, scoring 2 goals in the last minute of this game. This goal comes at 19 minutes and 49 seconds, so it did not take very long, just 18 seconds to score this second goal and take a 2-0 lead. And every player on that bench right now is standing up as you take a look at the shot once again, and that was just a poor decision. Here you watch as the puck will come back to the point. Kuba's able to keep it in with a skate. That's a good shot going. We've talked about him, and for some reason Van Vriesbach could not see it. He got a piece of it, couldn't hold on to it, and it's in the net.
8th goal of the season, 2nd in as many games for Philip Kuba. It will come as a power play goal as the Wild score 2 goals in 18 seconds. And instead of walking in through 20 minutes in a scoreless tie, they lead 2-0, and Derek Gustafson will be able to sit down and rest just a little bit easier. What a difference mentally now with a 2-goal lead.
Absolutely. You're right. The pressure's off a little bit right now, but he knows he's got 2 full periods to go. He made 11 saves in that period, and some of those very difficult saves, but he came through when he had to.
A strong point-blank save on Tim Conley early in the period. So the power play clicks, and so does Jim Dowd, and Minnesota leads by a score of 2-0. Manny Fernandez, our guest.
What do you hear from Todd Marinovich?
Hey, Keith, what's the best dog track for family?
Hey, Keith, what do you think of Papa Roach?
The Keith Olbermann Evening News, Sundays at 10 on MSC.
Tom Reed, our fine crew from Fox Sports Net, happy to be with you here tonight from the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Philip Kuba and Jim Dowd, the goal scorers for the Wild, and they lead 2-0 over this New York Islanders team, which has had a long wait in between bright moments, as Lorne Henning saw his team lose 5-1 the other night to the Washington Capitals after defeating the New York Rangers 5-2 in Henning's coaching debut. Rangers with as many problems as the Islanders have right now.
Yeah. New York's not a fun place to play right now.
New Jersey, on the other hand,
is.
is. And anybody from Jersey will tell you that is not New York. McCall across the line. Looking for Scatchard, fires towards Gustafson. He slides it aside. Taylor Pyatt, Roman Hammerlick high and over the net. And the puck clears out of the zone. Yeah, how about that? The Devils not only are good, Tom, but the other two teams in the metro area are struggling. I think Lou Lamoriello smiles just a little brighter.
I think he does.
The Islanders and the Rangers during those great years in the 80s when the Islanders were winning the Stanley Cup were good battlers. And then in the 90s early, it was the Devils and the Rangers. Sekrish, Kavasha. Of course, New Yorkers will tell you, or those in the metro area, Tom, will tell you it is more fun when all three teams can have those rivalries.
I'll tell you, that's great rivalries, obviously, especially between the Islanders and the New York Rangers for years. It's been that way, and I thought there's not a lot of love lost between these two, not only teams, but also the fans that support their individual teams.
It is not like you are a fan of both. You have to choose your allegiance. Out of the zone, the Wild able to clear. Van Beesbrook ahead to Cairns. Cairns intercepted by Roos. Benesic moves it up through the neutral zone. And here is Aaron Gavey. Gavey across the line, fires the shot, and it is up in the upper deck, almost here at the Nassau Coliseum. First period statistical look, the goals 2-love, the shots were even.
Well, when you look at it, things are pretty even throughout the two periods, but once again, we go back to the number of hits. You can see the Islanders, as we said before, the #1 team in the National Hockey League on hits. But the fact remains that when you get down to the last minute like that, and the players should be on the bench talking to each other how important that last shift is, the coaches, and to give up 2 goals like they did has got to be disastrous going into that dressing room. Right now, Jacques Lemaire, very happy along with Mario Lemieux, but this guy, Lauren Henning, coming here, is trying to instill some confidence in his team and just hasn't been able to do that yet.
Mitchell, a big drive, and it goes wide. Jason Blake takes it off the backboards. Now the puck is sent out of the zone by the Islanders. Darby Hendrickson intercepted. Played by Jason Blake. Blake stops, looks to center. And the puck is swept aside by Benesic. Blake regathers. Jason Blake circles, walking in, shot, and a save made by Gustafson. And a little poke from Hendrickson to Blake. You know, those you guys in those Fighting Sioux, they still don't like each other.
Yeah, you fight in the state of Minnesota, you fight when you get away to the National Hockey League or the minors. But Blake does a nice job here, controlling the puck, cuts on the inside, takes a quick shot, and knows how he's around right here and comes right back on the inside again, just in case Gustafson is not able to hold on to that puck.
So Gustafson getting his start. Good smile on the face of Derek Gustafson here tonight in the St. Lawrence helmet, as we talked about. Tom, you visited with him a little bit, but you knew once there was a possibility he was going to start that you might want to keep your visit short because he was nervous enough.
Yeah, he sure was. It was really interesting, too. When I talked to him, I mentioned St. Lawrence, of course, and I have a friend of mine whose son plays there, and his eyes just lit up right away. Like, oh, you watch that, you remember that, and that kind of breaks a bond. It makes a little bit of a bond between you. But I'm sure that his family's watching back in their home state of Oregon, living in Gresham, Oregon.
Good save by Van Beesbrook on Lecision. Certainly the family of Derek Gustafson wouldn't mind seeing the Wild add on to this 2-0 lead as Gabrick has it. Gabrick strong on the stick. Lapointe and Patera battle for it. Sylvain Blouin comes away with it. Andy Sutton is the healthy scratch. The official scorecard said 44. It is 42. As Sutton upstairs with Manny Fernandez, Zach Burke backing up Derek Gustafson, and Curtis Lecision moves the puck ahead towards Patera. He tried to sweep it to Blouin. It did not hit the stick of Sylvain Blouin, or it did as the icing is waved off and Chara brings it out. Zdeno Chara, also as a restricted free agent, has been talked as possible trade talk here as we get close to the trade deadline. McCall has it. Keeps it. The former All-American from the Wolverines. And Mazzei takes it over towards Zdeno Chara. Kevin Haller out for the season, one of the experienced defensemen on this team. Gary Galley about a week away with a shoulder injury, and so a guy like Ladislav or Branislav, pardon me, Mazzei, getting some chances to play. It'll benefit the Islanders down the road, won't it?
Absolutely it will. And as we said before, they've been decimated with all these injuries, and they've used a lot of players. It's tough to get that team concept going when you've got players in and out of the lineup constantly. Minnesota has got their players also. Matt Johnson, who had a head injury back in Calgary. And of course, you've got Jeff Nielsen still out with that shoulder problem. And Jamie McClellan was back in the Twin Cities after battling the flu very severely over the last few days.
15th game miss for Jeff Nielsen as Kuba brings it through the neutral zone. And the Wild on that soon-to-be, maybe known as the crash line in Minnesota of Walls and Laxinen and Nielsen have been solid all year long, Tom, when they go against the top lines of the other teams in the NHL.
Well, they get such a great skating line. I mean, they just move all the time.
Speaking of that line, Cam Stewart's on it, and he dropped passes towards Antti Laxinen. Walls comes in. Cam Stewart's eyes were glowing the other night after he had the late goal to send the game into overtime against St. Louis, and he talked about playing on this line and all the speed that's possessed by Walls and by Laxinen and how much fun it is to play with those guys.
Yeah. You know, there are players that maybe aren't gifted quite with the speed. It's nice to play with those guys, so you do get a chance to do some things because you know you get a chance to get the puck.
Stewart, Benesic's shot is wide of Van Beesbroek. John Van Beesbroek in the nets tonight for the New York Islanders. Walls looks to feed towards Laxinen. Benesic pinches in, gets there before Tchaikovsky, and Cairns takes a sweep at it. Lorne Henning will be upset if the Wild start to outwork his team, because that is what Butch Goring was criticized for, was losing his team, and he fired right back and said, I'm not sure I ever had them. There was a serious war of words over the last few days over the firing of Butch Goring, and we'll hear from Butch later in the show tonight. Applebee's is going wild. Get your Minnesota Wild collector glass at any Minnesota Applebee's location. The glass features the inaugural season logo. Applebee's is a proud partner of the Minnesota Wild. Hard enough to fire a coach, Tom, but when you fire a coach who meant so much to this organization, I would imagine it's even more difficult.
Yeah, it was very difficult for him, and of course, you know, he brought the players together. He wanted an airing session for just the players to hear their gripes, and maybe he could turn things around. But he said we got into the meeting, and all of a sudden they were complaining about, well, we have too many meetings and we have too many video sessions, and the food in the wives' lounge isn't very good after the games. And he said, I knew right there they did not have my attention at all. He said, I'm trying to get them to work hard, and they're worrying about food for their wives.
Times have changed. Well, you want to talk about
that's an important thing.
Oh, it is. Got to keep the wives happy. That is for certain. The food at the XL Energy Center in the wives' room, I understand, is probably pretty good because we haven't heard anything there. Keep the wife happy. You got to go home to her sooner or later. You and I know that, and we don't eat in that room. Here's Popovich head towards Hendrickson. Hendrickson, Roost, and Gaby. Now Kenny Janssen moves in. Stacey Roost works for it. Roost tries to fire it out of the zone off the stick of Parrish and gathered in by Darby Hendrickson. Across the line, the Islanders come, and an offside is called. We're going to have a penalty called, too. We'll see what it is when we come back.
Is the XFL going to show nudity? How come I never see you at the mall? You ever worn a swimsuit when you ran out of underwear? Were you at the Stones concert where they killed that guy? Is Phil Mickelson like that in real life? You ever love someone so much it hurts?
Whose idea was this?
The Keith Olbermann Evening News, Sundays at 10 on MSC.
A little push earlier, you watch right here as Darby Henderson has the puck, and here comes Jason Blake, and as he leaves his feet, that's the reason for the call of charging, and so he will once again go to the penalty box. He picked up a penalty for holding in the first period.
It's that Sioux Gophers thing again.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Let it go, boys. Let it go. Nonetheless, a power play opportunity, number 4 for Minnesota. They scored on their last power play. An unassisted goal by Philip Kuba as Steve Martins couldn't clear the zone of the puck. And here is Jim Dowd. Dowd, Krivokrasov, and Gabrick. Dowd gains the line, leaves it for Gabrick. Gabrick to Sekrish. Sekrish towards the point. Sekrish looking. Now he handles it again, lost it. The Islanders can't clear. Janssen can't get it out of the zone. Dowd takes it. You've got to clear the puck there. Krivokrasov. Dowd, Gabrick. And it bounced over a stick. Again, Sekrish stands up, and Krivokrasov couldn't.
Puck bouncing just a little bit too much for the Wild right now, trying to get in a position to get the shots away, but have actually been moving the puck pretty well on the power play, trying to open things up a little bit and break the box that the Islanders have put in.
Now, we talked earlier, Mark Parrish talked about it. What a great weekend it is in St. Paul. Back home in St. Paul, our Wells Fargo High School hockey update, and the field continues to be lessened.
Well, it certainly does. You look at Elk River once again, one of the big names in high school hockey in the state. Hastings winning against Austin. You got Moorhead over White Bear Lake. That's a little bit of a a surprise for a lot of people. Bill Butters at White Bear Lake, and of course Fridley upsetting Eden Prairie 5-4. Fridley with a very strong team going into the high school tournament.
So the semifinals today in St. Paul, and the championship games in A and AA tomorrow at the XL Energy Center. As Tom and I talked about yesterday, congratulations to all the teams who got there, because it is a very special achievement. In Texas, it's football. In Indiana, it's basketball, and as one writer pointed out, neither of those guys can skate. Mitchell towards the net. Now it's Darby Hendrickson. I talked to Darby about the state tournament, and his eyes lit up. Shot towards the net, and Hendrickson has it. Even Mike Ramsey's eyes lit up when I asked him about his memories of his days in Minneapolis. Hendrickson to Bombardier. Bombardier back to Hendrickson. To Bombardier. Bombardier a drive. It's wide of the net. And here is Hendrickson again. Bombardier feeds it down towards Gavey. 13 seconds left in the power play. Stacy Roos behind the net. Martins tries to close the passing lane. Gavey tries to open one. Roos waits. Gives it to Hendrickson to the point in Bombardier. Penalty time about to expire for Jason Blake. Hendrickson to Roos. Roos now behind the net to Gavey. Hendrickson is in deep. He was hit from behind. Play goes right on. Bombardier flies it high. Off the glass, Chara runs into Hendrickson again, and we will have a whistle and a stoppage in play as Van Beesbrook able to freeze.
Well, Minnesota moving the puck around on this power play, getting some chances. Bombardier with a couple good opportunities from that point position, trying to work with Gavey. But watch here. You're going to see three Minnesota Wild players. Look where they all are. They're all going back into the corner. There's nobody left in front of the net in case the puck does come out there to put the puck in. So they're all in a position where a goal can't be scored just as the penalty was expiring.
Aaron Gavey, Darby Hendrickson, the new proud papas, with Stacy Roost working the puck and cycling very well.
Shots on net right now by New York 15 and by Minnesota 14.
Walls will take the face-off. Laxinen, Stewart wins it back towards Lucian. Wes Walls tied up by Dave Scatchard. Laxinen now. Monty Laxinen. Scatchard steps in the way. And out of the zone comes New York. 11-19 remains in the second period. The Wild, the 7th goal of the year for Jim Dowd and the 8th goal of the year for Philip Kuba. Late in the first period. Shot, save in front. Gustafson had a little help from Curtis Lucian. And the puck is cleared the length of the ice.
Well, Wes Walls, as soon as he knew that the team was in trouble in their defensive zone, just turned very quickly, took a look and saw the opening and fired it down to get the icing call and get the stoppage to play and some other players back on the ice. Gustafson doing a good job, as we mentioned before, stopping all the shots that have come his way, 15 of them. Still wearing his St. Lawrence colors above the shoulders.
Hey, Gustafson could become popular in the upper Midwest, couldn't he?
And because A.D. Gustafson.
That's exactly right. Long way from the Vernon Vipers of the British Columbia Hockey League, where he won a '99 Canadian national title, to St. Lawrence, and now an NHL debut. Janssen shot wide of the net. Gustafson had it played. McCult looks for it. Jim Dowd. Dowd lost it. Scatchard tries to pick it up. Scatchard with 14 goals and 33 points, career highs on this season. He's also extremely good in the faceoff circles, in the top 10 in the NHL, but Jim Dowd has worked well against Dave Scatchard tonight on the draws. In fact, the Wild have done a nice job on faceoffs.
Yeah, they have. First period alone, I think they're about 50-50 in the faceoff.
McCall wants it. Sekrish can't take it. And Scatchard. Dowd tries to get to the loose puck first. Kenny Janssen plays it. Kenny Janssen has played here for a long time. 6 of his 7 professional seasons coming from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Here's Gabrick. Gabrick tried to get some speed on Eris Brahmanis. Young Tim Conley, the 19-year-old. Now it's Cherkovsky. Marius Cherkovsky across the line, and an offside will be called. On this line, Ole Kavasha and Tim Conley. And Tim Conley at just 19 years old, Tom, it's kind of what you said about the young goalie Rick DiPietro. Right now, he should probably be dominating the AHL instead of trying to play night in and night out as a #1 center in the NHL.
Well, he's come into this, and of course, you get forced into those positions. You want to play in the NHL. That's where you want to be. You don't think about going to the minors. You know, wherever you can go in the NHL, you'll go. But here's a youngster, as you mentioned, just as in his second year, but he leads his team in assists this year. 17 of his 35 points come on the power play. So he's got that gift of great vision, seeing where his teammates are, be able to get the puck right on their stick.
Out of the zone, it's played by Chara. Chara to Tchaikovsky. Across to Connolly. Connolly shot off the skate of Bombardier. And it goes out of play. Conley and the Islanders scoreless against young Derek Gustafson. Standing by, so call right now, 651-222 Wild. Bombardier and the Wild have given the fans here in the inaugural season many a moment to cherish, including that 6-0 victory on the first trip into town for the Dallas Stars. And how about the overtime win against Detroit? The first ever win against a team with a winning record in Vancouver. The moments have been bright, and it's amazing, Tom, that it is almost the first season going to be over.
And it's gone so fast that Jacques and I were talking about it the other day, and he said it's just been a whirlwind for him also. But the one thing he has had this year is the benefit of having a lot of players with great character to provide the leadership. He's gone through the different captains, and that's one area that the New York Islanders really lack. You talked about Janssen before. He was a captain. Actually, it was taken away from him. He agreed to have it taken away because he was being questioned about his leadership as the captain here by the coach at that time. And Butch Goring just felt that he wasn't giving it to him, didn't have everybody in the locker room to give it to him. Right now, I think there's only one player on that roster who's got the A on their sweater, and that goes to Claude Lapointe, who's a seasoned veteran.
Lapointe with an A and Janssen giving away the C. And in fact, talking to one of the Islander faithful, that's exactly what he told me, Tom. He said, you've got a lot of young players who could be good at one time, but you have no internal leadership. So how can the coach get across? Because sooner or later, coaches, oh my, what a save by Ozzie Guillen at shortstop.
Boy, was it ever. And you notice how deep he was back at that net also. When that comes down like that, you're not quite sure how it's going to bounce. He made a great play there by backing up and making sure that the front of his body was outside that net area right here. Look how deep he is, and you see it bounce, and you're not sure if it's going to go right or left or whatever. A little bit of English on that one.
Never know where it's going to go off the turf. The save made by Derek Gustafson. But getting back to the leadership, how important that leadership is, and that's where Pellerin, O'Donnell, Lecision, and now the growth of Hendrickson and Bombardier have been so important. And that's one man who Jacques Lemaire has talked about a lot. He's had him before. Bombardier's been around. He really likes the growth, both on and off the ice, of Brad Bombardier.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just watch him on the bench too, and he's having fun. As tough as the situations are at times, you want to have fun on the bench and be able to talk to the coaches, and the coaches give you a little pat in the back, and they all have their styles. And the coaches certainly do how they have to handle each of those players. It's extremely important to keep their confidence level up.
O'Donnell, then Pellerin, then Walls, then Bombardier for 2 months, and now Darby Hendrickson. 5 guys that have been pretty solid leaders for this hockey team. Gavey. And each one of them, Tom, has always said, you know what, I'm just one of many leaders in the room, and that's what the coach wants to hear. Behind the net, Islanders try to play it around in front of Gustafson. Gavey helps to break it up, as does Ladislav Benisic. Willie Mitchell can't fly it up the boards. Roman Hamrlik keeps it in. Tough guy Craig Berube digs for it.
Islanders throwing 2 guys in right now, just trying to force Minnesota into mistakes and getting some success with it.
Juraj Kolnick also on the ice. Hamrlik comes away with the loose puck. Berube down in front. Penalty's going to go against Ladislav Benisic. Tripping up Juraj Kolnick. Shot from the point. Doesn't get to the net. Roost able to gain possession, and the Islanders will have the power play for the first time tonight.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question on that call. Benisic was right with Kolnick trying to take him out of the play and got the stick down a little bit low on the skates, and down he goes. And so this will be Minnesota's first trip, you might point out, to the penalty box in tonight's game. See where the stick is right now in behind the leg, and just a little push, it throws him off balance. The referee in a good position to see that one.
So Benisic in at 12-11 for tripping, and the Islanders, who are tied for 26th in the National Hockey League with their power play, will try to cut this lead in half against the 6th best penalty killing unit in the NHL. Mariusz Tchaikovsky has 10 power play goals on the year. Injured Brad Isbister has 7, and then Minnesota's own Mark Parrish has 6. John Van Beesbrook, a new blonde, he has a lot of wins in his career, 368. But it was interesting when I read today, he's also moving in on the old Gumper for most losses for a goaltender in the history of the NHL. Gumper had 352 in defeats.
Well, you have to be around a long time to capture that type of a record, and you don't like those, but at the same time, it shows you your longevity and how well you must perform to stay in the league.
And play for younger teams. I won't use the E word here, knowing our own state. Played for the Florida Panthers and then the New York Islanders. Gustafson with another glove save.
Well, once again, a good drawback rate to Hammerlick, who's able to come in with that shot. And he's one guy you've got to key on a little bit because 17 of his points have come in the power play. You watch right here, winning the draw once again is so important. When you don't win it, bad things sometimes can happen, but that was Scatchard does a nice job. You talked before about how good he is at faceoffs.
Scatchard did 55.4% on the draw coming into tonight. That's tied for 8th best in the NHL. He won that one, but the Islanders couldn't do anything with it. And Walls and Laxonen are able to clear it out. They'll get a quick line change, new penalty killing unit on, as this power play has struggled for the New York Islanders, who have struggled to score goals this year. Another whistle and a stoppage in play.
Well, that puck was just shot by Lecision, and it just banked somehow, went right up over top of the glass, and fortunately no one got hurt by that puck. A couple of empty seats here, maybe that's why, but that will keep the face off. I think it was deflected off of the stick of the Islander player coming in there, and that's what has happened now. They're bringing the face off outside. You look at Mike Ramsey. Talk to Jacques a little bit. They have Mario Tremblay, who is a forward, working with the defense. And of course, Mike is able to watch a little bit more of the game and give his input both from the defense side and also the forward side. And so can tell Jacques and Mario both what he sees out there.
And Mike is in charge of the eye in the sky, too. He is not a Secret Service representative with the wiring. Parrish across the line. Kavasha. And Stewart gets it out.
Stewart doing a good job of just capturing the puck once again and just a quick spin around to get it down the ice.
Kenny Janssen. Kenny Janssen just 1 goal last season. Kuba's there. Flips it up. And the puck will sail out of play. You know, I was talking and we visited with Mark Parrish before the game, and this is kind of funny. People at home in Minnesota will appreciate this, but somehow in the big book where you study the hometowns of everybody, Mark Parrish was listed to be from Edina. And as John Stroh, our pregame producer, pointed out to me, it is not Edina, it's Bloomington Jefferson. So I asked Mark about it. He said, hey, there's only one hospital around back then.
That's right.
But don't get everybody at home mad. He said, ever since I broke in the league, everybody's saying Edina, and I'm getting in big trouble at home. I'm a Bloomington Jeff guy, man. And you have to get that straight tonight.
It was only a few miles to get from Edina to Bloomington over to Bloomington. Just about, what, 3 miles maybe at the most?
I guess that's a very important border there.
Absolutely it is. But Bloomington Jefferson has been one of the strong contenders in high school hockey for so many years. Tom Satterdell doing a great job with that team over the years. Lots of championships.
You got that right. And they were dominant in the times with Darby and then the times with Mark Parrish, weren't they?
Yeah, they just have really put a program together. It really starts at the youth league, and they seem to have the same type of system that follows through in the high school league, so the kids are familiar with it.
Mariusz Tchaikovsky gathers in. Both teams are back at even strength. Or not quite yet, as Benisic still in the box. 6:17. And a whistle and a stoppage with 26 seconds left on the penalty. Mariusz Tchaikovsky, he is going to, we think from all reports, sign a new contract here in the next few days. He is a restricted free agent at the end of this season.
Yeah, and it's tough to give up a player like this. And of course, Mike Milbury knows that you've got to keep some of these strong players around. Now that he has a little more capital to work with, I think you'll see some more players come in here. He's one of the few players in the league out of Poland. Played last year and picked up 35 goals and 35 assists, and 70 points this year. Has 51 points with a number of games remaining.
Last 4 years, 26 goals, then 12, then 21, then 35, and now he's got a chance to reach that with about 15 games left this season at 25 goals now. Cam Stewart walking in, backhand score! What a pretty move by Cam!
Oh, that was a great goal. We've seen him do that so often in practice and get beat on it, and you keep on trying until you get it right, and he gets it right there. 13:54, the time of that goal. Watch, he'll pick it up there. Controls here, and all of a sudden, look how he uses his body. And that was a bad play by Jason Blake there. He just did not get on the inside of him there. He came on the backside, and watch right here. One more step, he would have had him, but he elected not to do that, and as a result, that gave Stewart the room to move because players were coming the other way, and Blake could not come back on the inside then. It was too late, and all of a sudden, he puts it away. 13:56, the time of the goal, to give the Minnesota Wild a 3-0 lead.
That will make the highlight reel. Pretty goal for Cam Stewart.
And shorthanded.
And the Wild continue to take advantage of teams when they have been shorthanded on the year. Wes Walz leading the way with 6 shorthanded goals. And for Cam Stewart, his first shorthanded goal of the season. Well, Minnesota, one of the top teams in the NHL in shorthanded goals for. They scored their 11th shorthanded goal of the season. And it is credited to Cam Stewart.
And Bombadil picked up the assist on the goal also.
So the wealth being spread around here with Dowd, Mitchell, Kriva-Kravtsov, Kriva, Stewart, and Bombardier all picking up a point here so far. Loose puck chased down. Both teams are back at even strength now as the Wild have Marian Gaborik across the line. Shot and a stick save made by Van Beesbrook. Gloved by Patera. Patera to Gaborik. Shot wide. Patera, Blouin, and Gaborik. Gaborik wants it. Now he's closed off by Branislav Mazay. Mazay coming in with no NHL games played in his career. Playing tonight in his 28th game of the season. Kept in by Kuba. Now it's Gaborik off his skate. Mazay steps in, and Parrish able to deflect it off the sideboards and out.
One of the guys I've been impressed with also is his play is Blouin, and he has really stepped up here and given a very good effort playing with Gaborik. Trying to protect him a little bit.
He was a healthy scratch the first 10 games of the year, Tom, and you know what? That's the toughest thing, is to wait to see what your role is going to be. He worked his tail off, got his chance. McCult shot is high, and when he did, he took advantage of it. Cam Stewart, a moment ago, gave the Wild a 3-0 lead. Stewart scoring the 3rd goal of this game tonight as the Minnesota Wild lead. Thanks to Darby Hendrickson and his efforts, the New York Islanders by a score of 3-0. Face off to the left side of Derek Gustafsson. And Roman Simichek moves it ahead to Kriva-Kravtsov. Kriva-Kravtsov to Simichek. To Kriva-Kravtsov, stick handling himself, and he had the razzle-dazzle going.
Yeah, he's been somewhat of a disappointment this year, Kriva-Kravtsov, because he knows what he has to do with the puck. He just hasn't stepped up. Last night I thought he had a very strong game, and he had another strong game tonight. We hope that this is the turn for him.
Tchaikovsky, center, shot. Oh my goodness! What a save by Derek Gustafsson! Absolutely robbing Ole Kvasha.
Well, Kvasha was right on the doorstep, but when he took the shot, he looked right over the goaltender, and he's still going over towards him, saying something to him. And Gustafsson having a little bit of a laugh, perhaps, as he is able to capture that puck. Watch the position here. Well, Watts going down, not quite sure, but he had the glove right above the pad like that. If in case it was a low shot to get a piece of it, he gets just that.
Now, Gustafsson, absolutely magnificent on that glove save. Scouting report will tell you that Derek Gustafsson has a pretty good glove hand.
Boy, is he ever.
This has to feel great for this young man.
As I said before, you may only get one shot at it. You got to make the best of it, and he certainly has done that in this game.
He has had a few tough saves. 18 shots for the Islanders, 17 for the Wild. Gustafsson perfect, and the Wild lead 3-0. Willie Mitchell. Mitchell spins and moves it back behind the net to Benesic. Benesic up towards Cam Stewart. Roman Hammerlick skates it down, sends it right back up. It's gloved by Walz. Left towards himself, and now gathered in by Willie Mitchell. Mitchell to Benesic. And Benesic moves it into the Islanders zone. Janssen in pursuit is Antti Laaksonen. Roos, so 2 guys in for a moment for the Wild. Laaksonen off, Hendrickson high along with Gavey. And behind the net, Hammerlich will wait. 1 point for the Islanders. Tom, you talked about injuries. Their top 4 defensemen were all hurt at one point or another in December. Brad Isbister, who's having a fine season with 18 goals, is done for the year because of a sprained knee. You've got Kevin Haller with the hernia out for the year. Mats Lindgren done for the year. Webb with a knee strain has missed almost 20 games, and Gary Galley has been out for a long, long time.
Yeah, and when you get those type of injuries, it just seems that things start to go worse for you. When you get one injury, they start to snowball, and this is where the team has really struggled. And this has been a very tough road for Mike Milbury. When you get the right players you think are going to be there, and also the injuries start to hit, and you start to go down. The fans don't understand some of that. They think you can just magically make these gifted players, these guys who can score goals appear. This doesn't happen that way.
Hey, look what's happened in St. Louis. And they, at one point, were en route to their second straight President's Trophy. They're still pretty good, but not nearly as dominant as they were before. Gustafsson out of the net. Tchaikovsky tried to pinch in on him. Now Mariusz Tchaikovsky looks to center to Connolly. Sekrish pokes it. Kavasha's there. And Sekrish gives it a ride. 2:13 remains in the second period. The Minnesota Wild on goals by Jim Dowd and Philip Kuba, 18 seconds apart, which is a new franchise record. And a goal by now maybe Stacey Roost. He scores! Stacey Roost has made it 4-0 Minnesota. We talked about it, and he gets it. And the Wild have a commanding lead.
Well, he just broke between 2 big guys, and like Carnes, who's 6'6", and also between Chara, who's 6'9". And that little guy makes it happen. I say little, but big heart. Watch here. The defense is too wide there. They can't close the gap quick enough. And he keeps on going. And once again, Van Friesberg gets beaten for that goal. It gives Minnesota that 4-0 lead.
First in 12 games earlier for Jim Dowd. Now the first goal in 12 games for Stacey Roost, who has been absolutely working his tail off, getting great chances lately, and he's able to light the lamp as Roost and the Wild now lead 4-0. This is what Minnesota hoped would happen. This is how the coaches hoped they would play. You know, you got to hit the wounded soldier when he's wounded, and that is what the Wild have done tonight against the Islanders. Cairns the shot, and it deflects off of Gustafsson. 90 seconds remains in the period, and Hammerlich has it.
Well, Sekrish will pick up the only assist on that goal.
Still nobody with 2 points tonight, Tom. And a lot of men with 1. At least from my count here, with Stewart from Bombardier, Roos from Sekrish, Kuba, Dowd, Mitchell, and Kriva Krasov. So 2 in the first, and so far 2 in the second. Bombardier clears it out of the zone. 60 seconds remains. Cam Stewart is 4th, Roost is 5th, Kuba his 8th, Dowd is 7th. Scatchard and Lecision bump. Dave Scatchard for the Islanders. Behind the net is Jim Dowd. Dowd with Taylor Pyatt in his face. Here is Curtis Decision to Simichek. Able to get it up towards the blue line. Kept in there by McCullough. Pyatt tried to feed it to Scatchard. Jumping into the play, Zdeno Chara. Chara and Dowd are there. You knew that was coming. Chara with another hit to add to the total. Bombardier clears it aside.
Nice little play just to get it out over the zone, making sure it was not going to be an icing call.
Spinning is Bill McCullough. McCullough through center. Flies it towards Gustafsson. Willie Mitchell behind the net.
Took a little look at the clock here just to run it out.
And they do.
Well, good period for Minnesota. Once again, they're very patient, coming up with a couple of key goals here in period number 2, as they did in the first period.
Good to see Stacey Roos get one. Nice to see one not get by. Derek Gustafsson through 40 minutes. Minnesota leads 4-0.
Scoring goals, and even when you have the even strength opportunity, you try and score the goals, but this team cannot afford to be in the penalty box and take those penalties, but they don't get enough goals to warrant being there.
You are correct about that, and they aren't amongst the best defensively either this season, as the Islanders are on their way to missing the playoffs for the 7th straight season And that is the longest drought in the National Hockey League, dating all the way back to 93 and 94, when they last were part of the top 8 in the Eastern Conference. Wes Walz has the puck, sends it towards Van Beesbrook, who slides it aside. Laxinen, number 24, throws it aside.
Well, he tried to get over Sekars, who's cut in from the point once again, and that's Minnesota's defenseman able to just jump into the play when they see those opportunities.
And that is the key, is to pick that opportunity out at the proper time. Roman Hammerlick, Tim Connolly has it. Just 11 wins inside this building, the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum, for the New York Islanders this year. Wild have only lost twice when leading after 2. Here's Roost. Tried to slide it towards Gavey. Pushed aside by Van Beesbrook. 21 wins in 93-94 with the Panthers. An expansion record. Manny Fernandez. Roman Simichek. Parrish tried to wrap around, and getting the stick on him was Willie Mitchell.
That's all about Mitchell. He's got that frame. He's long, and he's able to reach around there as Parrish was trying to cut on the inside and use his stick as his advantage.
When he scouted himself the other day, he said, I don't hit like Scott Stevens. I don't jump into the play like Scott Niedermayer. But he feels solid. And the one thing Mitchell likes is that he's good with that stick, and he showed it a moment ago. Northland Ford game summary. 2 goals, 18 seconds apart, is the fastest in Minnesota Wild history. And Derek Gustafsson in his NHL debut, so far, so good.
He has been very good. You'll watch how focused he is, too. Making not only one save, but being in position to make that second save. And nice and square on the puck. Able to move across, getting a little bit of luck once in a while, which you have to get. At the same time, being focused enough to not let the players around you worry about what's happening. And having that quick mitt certainly helps.
So Gustafsson with a fine glove save in the second period. Had a big save against Connolly in the first. And he's wearing the Saints on his helmet. Not far from his heart. Ruby, here's Dowd. St. Lawrence Saints. That's Mike Keenan's old stomping ground, isn't it?
I believe it is.
Up at St. Lawrence. Yeah, Ron Mason, too, if my memory serves me correctly. As players.
A long time ago.
A long. Longer for Mace. Here's Hammerlick. Hammerlick to Jason Blake. The shot, the save, the rebound. Fired towards the net. Swept aside in front by Bombardier and Lecision.
Minnesota's done a nice job defensively in their own zone tonight to really help out the young goaltender also. They did not help out Zach Burke last night, who got pounded pretty good, giving up 6 goals in his debut with the Wild.
Blake loses an edge. Steve Martins can't handle the pass. Islanders have scored 150 goals this year. Only 6 more goals than the Minnesota Wild. Conversely, they have allowed 50 more goals than the Wild this season. They are 4th worst defensively in the NHL. Cam Stewart. The puck was played on a high stick by a Wild player, so Stewart could touch it first. Hammerlick did. Laxinen in on Zdeno Chara. Chara leaves it for Roman Hammerlick. And Hammerlick ahead to Mariusz Czerkowski. Czerkowski off the skate of Connolly, fired in to the Minnesota Wild bench. Now pick up the phone right now. The number to call is 651-222-WILD. We do have Wild representatives standing by for your chance to get in line for 2001-2002 Minnesota Wild season tickets. It's called the Minnesota Wild Warming House. It's your chance to see great memories made for next year in year number 2, year 2 of many. The Minnesota Wild hockey back in the upper Midwest.
Well, this team has to feel very good of their play through the first 2 periods and 5 minutes of this 3rd period. Playing against a team also does not score a lot of goals. The New York Islanders have scored just 1 goal in 4 of their last 5 games.
That will not get you many points in the standings. Zdeno Chara. Even Bobby Nystrom said when he saw the score, Tampa Bay 6, New York Islanders nothing, he knew that that was the last game that Butch Goring would coach.
You know, when you go back to the draft and you look at the DiPietro being the #1 draft choice overall in the National Hockey League this year, and even a lot of the people in the Islander organization, some I talked to today, were very surprised that they took the goalie rather than taking a guy like Gabrick or Danny Heatley, who went to Atlanta out of Wisconsin. I mean, they were looking for someone who could score some goals perhaps down the road, and a little bit surprised that Mike Milbury would do that.
I know a few people pretty happy that they didn't take Marion Gabrick.
That's right.
Here he is, the top of the bunch. Heatley not playing in the NHL.
They're behind the bench right now.
You got that right. And watching tonight on Fox Sports Net, Gabrick, the leading scorer of this hockey team. Pat Falloon led San Jose in scoring his first expansion season. Benison, that being a rookie, to lead his team in scoring in year 1 here in the 90s. In the expansion situations. Scatchard, stick handles, looks towards McCulloch, broken up by Willie Mitchell. That's that stick positioning again that Mitchell has talked about. Behind the net, 13:53 remains. Cairns can't keep it in at the blue end. Blue end with hustle. Romanis after a little body by Scatchard on blue end. And the Islanders send it right back in. Curtis Decision takes it. It's March 9th. Trading deadline just a matter of days away. What will happen soon? Uri Zolnik. Kenny Janssen. Janssen to Hammerlick. Closed in by Krivokrasov. Kolnick sends it in. Now it's Bombardier. Brad Bombardier bounces it to Curtis Decision. Krivokrasov wants it. Instead, it's Hammerlick who takes it. Janssen who fires it up and too far, but in the direction of LaPointe. Parrish trying to walk in. Mark Parrish said he was excited to know that family and friends would be listening to every word we said about him tonight.
Make it good.
Absolutely. It has been so far, and justifiably so. Simichek looking for his first goal in a Wild uniform since the 2 power play goals against Anaheim. Here it is with a chance. He gives it away to Krivokrasov. Fires from the bad angle, and Van Beesbrook was there. Krivokrasov looks to center. Hammerlick breaks it up. Now it's Parrish, and he flies it off the glass and out. 12:34 now remains. Kuba touches, and the icing is called. Dowd, Kuba, Stewart, and Roos. Time now to check out what's on tap. Brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Sunday, the Detroit Red Wings. Barry Butel, Tom Reed with the pregame show at 12:30. We'll have the call at 1 o'clock. Then St. Louis, Philadelphia. Lots of easy games ahead on the schedule.
Well, we beat Detroit twice. That's no big deal.
2-0 lifetime against the Red Wings. Kuba jams it towards Van Beesbrook. We do anticipate Manny Fernandez and Jamie McLennan available for Sunday's game, as Manny told us in the first intermission. And I know you and Bobby Nystrom go back a long way, Tom, and you played against him. You watched the success they had on the island, and what a super nice gentleman. But, you know, what a guy who's really, really disappointed to see empty seats inside the building that was once just one of the best in the NHL.
Well, it certainly was. When you go back to the early 70s, 72, when they started, this team had a pretty good fouling, and they just built their team. Al Arbor and did a nice job in this position. Bill Torrey was a GM back then and really built a solid squad here. And all of a sudden now you see how things start to change a little bit. Arbor coming in finally, a few years later, bringing him to the Stanley Cup level. But to see this is pretty tough for the fans.
Now Butch Goring, newly departed as the head coach, actually won the Conn Smythe in 1981 as the playoff MVP in one of the 4 championships for the Islanders. Roost has the puck. Roost into Van Beesbrook, and Van Beesbrook will freeze. Don't forget the official clothier of the Minnesota Wild is the foursome in Wayzata at the Wayzata Bay Center. The official clothier of the Minnesota Wild right off the highway in beautiful downtown Wayzata in the Wayzata Bay Center. Visit your friends at the foursome when you get a moment. Jacques Lemaire on the bench. Looks like he wants to call a timeout. Yep. At least he's motioning that way, unless that's a different signal of some type. And maybe it is here in hockey.
Signal.
All right.
Yeah.
Looks like the timeout.
It's called.
If it were Denny Green, it'd be a timeout.
Scratch your palm.
Willie Mitchell towards Van Beesbrook and swept aside. Puck in the neutral zone. Patera can't handle.
That's his Palm Pilot, I believe.
Exactly. Yeah. Does he have a cell phone? Cell phone Palm Pilot. Call yourself. Remind yourself. Here's Walls. Gabrick with speed. Gabrick behind the net. Oh, fired around. Van Beesbrook will make the save.
Once again, you see his speed coming around there and able to cut back on the inside, use the leg once again and position himself and get that shot away. And Van Beesbrook doing a job also of getting to the far side. Watch his left leg. Watch how it comes out here and kind of protects himself from it. Protects that puck so nobody can get to it. And he just puts away. He just bowled his way through there.
Nice feature in the pregame show about Marion Gaborik and his growth and his continuing process of trying to be what a top draft pick should be, and that is a big-time performer in the National Hockey League.
Well, he said that his hero growing up was Peter Bondra of the Washington Capitals, and of course he's one of those guys who knows how to make the plays. 32 assists on the year, 37 goals, and when you have idols like that, you try to do the things that they do to make you a better player.
So in 4 or 5 years, if he plays on a consistent basis like Bondra, would that be okay for you?
That would be perfect.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be the only one who would be okay with that. Puck is sent in. McCall closed down by Bombardier. Islanders, Phil McCall. McCall looks to spin around. McCall to Pyatt. His shot is wide. Shots are 24 for Minnesota, 19 for the Islanders, who give up on an average almost 30 shots a night, which is why defensively they are near the cellar in the National Hockey League. In fact, only the Rangers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Atlanta Thrashers have allowed more goals against this season than New York, as an offside is called. You wonder what has happened to the New York Islanders of past and some present, at least not long ago. Where are they now? Brian Berard, injured, his career is over. Todd Bertuzzi is a Vancouver Canuck. Ray Ferraro, wow, he was good here. Darby Hendrickson's in Minnesota. Tony Herkis is in Anaheim. Elsewhere, where are they now? Trades that didn't work out that well. Kasparidis, Linden, Ziggy Palffy, Pierre Turgeon, and Tommy Salo in Edmonton. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you look there, you'd like to just take those players and bring them all back here.
Palffy and Smolinski to LA, Tom, for 3 unprovens and a draft pick. Berard to Toronto for Felix Potvin. He's not here anymore. McCabe and Bertuzzi to Vancouver for Trevor Linden. He's in Montreal now. Yeah. That has been part of the moves that have gone south, as the penalty is going to be called.
Well, we've got an interference call that will go against Minnesota. This is only the second time in this penalty, or in this game, that they have picked up a penalty. You watch here from the face-off. The puck is kept in by the Islanders here and coming in on the far side. Now see it going on the right side of your screen. Simonchek coming in there and just taking his man right out before the puck even got there. So he is called on the interference call. That comes at 9 minutes and 40 seconds.
Tom, earlier in the show, you had mentioned that Mariusz Czerkawski was one of just 3 players in the NHL who have not been held without a shot this season. Joe Sakic, Jaromir Jagr being the other 2. Czerkawski did not have a shot recorded through the first 2 periods. I'm trying to remember now that I saw that on the score sheet, thinking about that particular fact, if he's had one here in the 3rd yet. But he has not been held without a shot in any games played this season. He's Sakic and Jagr. Here's a power play opportunity where he should get an opportunity to fire one at the net. Czerkawski will get it from Conley. Looks to feed it to the point in Janssen, broken up by Laxinen. Hammerlick at the blue line keeps it in. Hammerlick gets it across towards Janssen, but it's broken up by Laxinen. Here is Walls. Mariusz Czerkawski and Kenny Janssen. Hammerlick at center to Mariusz Czerkawski across the line. Czerkawski holds it to Janssen stepping in. Scatcherd on the backhand, broken up and cleared out nicely by the Wild.
Scatcherd was right on the doorstep, really not much room to move there, just trying to get the puck to deflect a little bit in a different direction.
Czerkawski to Connolly, and Dowd able to clear. Jim Dowd got it started 1932 into the first period. 18 seconds later, it was Philip Kuba on the power play, 2 fastest goals in Minnesota Wild history. Shorthanded goal on this night by Cam Stewart. The 11th shorthanded goal for the Wild this year. Ties an expansion record previously set by San Jose and Florida. Hammerlick a drive. Saved by Gustafsson. Rebound was still free. To the point. And Hammerlick. Bramanis. Wall's able to break it up. He lost the stick, but hammers the Islanders player. Wall's running right into number 25, Uri Coleman.
Well, he just kept his composure after losing the stick instead of just going for the stick, making sure he was going to get one of the players towards getting into the play.
Kavasha sends it down. Power play is over. Gustafson winds it around. Stewart gathers it in.
Gustafson getting a little bit more confident now. You see him out of net handling the puck a little bit more.
Van Beesbrook up the near side boards. Mitchell can't keep it in at the blue line. 8 minutes remains. 4-0 Wild. Gabrick right in on Mazet. And you can see just that little hesitation of the defenseman because of the speed of Gabrick to close the gap so quickly.
Yeah.
Branislav Mazet, also a Slovakian. Patera takes it. Patera gets it across to Benisic.
And Minnesota doing a good job in this third period of just moving the puck very easily from one player to the next, keeping the puck in the offensive zone for quite a bit of time.
Patera on the backhand, broken up by Chara. Puck is free, shot, save, rebound off the side of the net. A wraparound attempt, and Sekrish couldn't finish. And finally, a whistle and a stoppage in play. I think they're going to get both Sekrish and Chara for some extracurriculars, as Gustafson is perfect so far.
Hello? Hey, who? What's up? Nothing, B. Just watching the game, having a bud. What's up with you? Watching the game, having a bud. True, true. What's up? Yo, where's Dookie? Yo, Dookie! Yo. What's up? Yeah, right.
Pieces of equipment that are coming in, get a chance to look at some of the hockey schools they have throughout the state, hockey camp. There's a look at Sekrish, who's in the box. Also, Chara was called for New York Islanders.
Face off inside the zone. Gavey, 4-on-4 hockey here for the next couple of minutes. Sekrish and Chara in the box. And out of the zone will Kenny Janssen bring it. Ladislav Benisic to Willie Mitchell. Mitchell with McCult in his face and Roost. Mike Ramsey said at the beginning of the show tonight, he was on right at the top talking about it is a different game. It is a different opponent. That is for certain. You're going from one of the best teams in the NHL to the worst, but yet you still have to bring a great work ethic because jobs are on the line both ways, and the Wild obviously realized that.
Well, you certainly can't let up because they're bottom of the league. We've seen many teams this year who thought that because Minnesota was an expansion team that they didn't have to play very hard. You have to play hard all the time.
Wild looking to sweep the season series with the Islanders. Looks like they are well on their way with 6.5 minutes remaining. You know, every time you think things might go bad, that's the one thing the Wild have done. They have responded this year. Big trades in Western Canada. You tie Calgary. You really were overwhelmed the next night at Edmonton. Then you got a red-hot Vancouver team, and boom, you beat them in overtime. It's been one of those seasons. Tchaikovsky poked away by Kuba. Mariusz Tchaikovsky inside the face of Philip Kuba. Career highs last year for Tchaikovsky, the 28-year-old from Poland, with those 35 goals. So you're looking at a nucleus at 28. He's still a good part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lacks it into walls. Bombardier wanted it. Hammerlick takes it. And behind the net, Branislav Mazet, who was the runner-up for OHL Defenseman of the Year last year in Belleville with the Bulls. As Tchaikovsky will take it at center. Here's Roman Hammerlick. Hammerlick on the side. And it's poked aside by Jim Dowd. Hendrickson with speed. Hendrickson breaking towards the net. Score! No! He hit the post. Hendrickson had the backhand, had Van Beesbrook beaten. And he claims it off the pipe.
Well, you watch him when he gets down. His center of gravity goes way down, and he just makes that long stride, is able to go in there. I thought he had him beat. He certainly did. And as he put it in the right position, just a little bit off the mark that he was looking for.
Here's Craig Berube. Under 5 minutes remains, and an offside is called. Minnesota 4 minutes away from a win.
It's a puck right here, and look at the long stride he has right now. Just drops that in the butt area, and all of a sudden gets a long stride. Comes in on the perfect play here, and you could see Van Beesbroek able to watch the puck, and that's all he could do is watch it because the puck just clanged off the pipe.
Bouncing puck towards Derek Gustafson. Gustafson with 21 saves on the night. Taylor Pyatt. Pyatt tries to get it in deeper. Fighting for it, Bluen. And Patera able to clear. 4:25 remains. Islanders have shut out 10 times this season. Harris Bremanis to Skatcher in the neutral zone. And Mitchell wanted it. Just able to flip it back up. Harris Bremanis takes it in. Bremanis, the old Bowling Green State Falcon, played his equivalent to high school hockey, did Bremanis at Culver Military Academy in Indiana. One of our great members of the Wild staff, Jamie Spencer, before going to Wisconsin, was a gunner. And Harris Bremanis, number 32 in the white uniform, another young guy, Tom, who in an opportunity stage right now. And that's what Jock talked about when the guys were departed from the Wild lineup. If one man leaves, it's an opportunity for many others.
Well, it is. Bremanis is one of those guys. He's not the quickest player around, but he has some pretty good size at 6'3", 215. And he was in the minors, has been recalled once again just a few days ago to get an opportunity here coming in from the International Hockey League, where a lot of players have to go to develop. Takes some players a little bit longer than others.
Sekrich walking in. Van Beesbrook went down in front of the net.
Yeah.
And the referees are going to fire Jim Dowd to the box for a couple of minutes.
Well, when you go into the goaltender, they have said that they're going to make sure they're going to start calling those a little more often than not. And with that, Dowd goes into the goaltender. And you're just trying to get in position sometimes. You see right here, I don't think he knew where he was on the ice, because he normally does not play that type of a game. But nonetheless, he goes to the box. This penalty coming with just 3:54 on the clock. So 16:06 the time of that penalty to Minnesota. Just their 4th penalty of this hockey game.
A man known as Bezos, a 37-year-old from Detroit, Michigan. His best was when he had 31 wins with the Rangers back in '85-86. Won the Vezina that year. Becomes the most experienced goaltender here on Long Island since Ron Hextall took the team to the playoffs a few seasons back.
Well, when you think back of the teams of the island, I mean, they were a very physical team, even back in the mid-'70s when they had guys like Billy Harris and Bobby Nysham, who you talked to, and Gary Howlett and Clark Gillies. I mean, these are tough guys who played very physical. And even Billy Smith, who was in net, played physical. But we're not seeing that from this team here right now.
To the point, and Kenny Janssen, it bounces over his stick. That's Tom, you're right. For a team that leads the league in hits, the Wild have delivered just as much punishment as they have tonight.
Absolutely.
Marius Cherkovsky. Kicked ahead by Darby. Darby sends it in. Hear the communication, even on our microphones around the ice level. You hear the communication. Cam Stewart yelling Darby when he's in the play. They've done a nice job, the Wild, of getting to know each other here in the inaugural season. Janssen fires the shot, knocked down in front. Stewart clears.
Minnesota coming back, even in this shorthand situation, they come back together as a unit. All of a sudden, they're in their box position. They really take the lanes away from the Islanders, trying to get the passes or the shots to the net, and they're able to capture the puck and just shoot it down the ice again.
Roman Hammerlich sends it in. Kavasha can't handle, and it's sent right out by Aaron Gavey.
Everybody has a job to do. Even when we don't have the puck, there's a job that you have to do on the ice. And Jacques has taught this team very well what's expected of them and where they should go when they get in certain situations. I mean, you can't do it, we can't do it textbook all the time. It's not a play like in football where you think you're going to run on the outside, or you're going to do this or you're going to do that. A lot of things happen on the ice here where that puck is and where the players are positioned. Everything changes.
Wild trying to kill off this 3rd power play of the night for the New York Islanders. They're 17 seconds away.
With no shots on this power play.
Now, how about that? Chara. Coleman walking in. Here's Taylor Pyatt. Shot saved by Gustafsson.
Well, once again, you saw Gustafsson just squaring the puck as he takes that perfect shot into the midsection. You watch him, he'll come squaring the puck right here. Once again, just nice and easy. Follows the puck, good focus, and all of a sudden it's right there. And he just wants to make sure he's not going to leave any type of a rebound in that situation, which he does not. And so with that in mind, he is able to secure the strong game that he has had. That's their only shot they've had on the power play.
121 seconds remains in the game.
Barring overtime.
I want to take that back. What are you want any odds, or you just want to give me the money now? Yeah. LaPointe, face-off win. Mazea drive, score. Islanders have broken the shutout bid of Derek Gustafson with just 1 minute and 57 seconds remaining, but they are going to go upstairs and review this goal. Might have been off a high stick.
It's a high stick, or whether someone in the crease area. I didn't see anyone in the crease area, so that leads me to believe it may be a high stick. Well, watch right here. Getting the draw back to the point again. You'll see here's a shot coming. Don't see anything too high there. You can watch it from this level here.
Did hit the stick, Tom.
It hit the stick, but I don't think the stick was above the crossbar when it hit. The officials upstairs will have to make that determination as they go to the video operator that is employed by the National Hockey League. If it is a goal, it will come at 18 minutes and 3 seconds of the period. And
just for the record, you or I never mentioned that word.
No, we did not.
And we made sure not to.
And
it's going to be a goal.
Yeah.
And it is going to break the shutout bid for Derek Gustafson, who would have become the first NHL goaltender to post a shutout in his first career NHL game played since Mike Fountain did it for Vancouver at New Jersey back in November of 1996.
Yeah, see if we can get a better look right here. Mazet takes a shot right here, and you'll watch as it's climbing. All of a sudden it's hit. I see Jason Blake in front there now. It may have been hit his stick to go into the net, but we'll wait for the official call. And that's almost, that's almost like a relief for the Islanders to be able to score a goal. As I said before, though, last 4 to 5 games, they scored only 1 goal in the game. Well, looks like that may be the case here again tonight.
Well, Dowd has it. Well, they're going to award the goal to Jason Blake on the tip-in. The 27-year-old from Moorhead gets his 5th goal of the season and breaks the shutout bid of Derek Gustafson in his NHL debut, who was trying to become a future Treasure Island Resort and Casino trivia question.
Well, Mazet and LaPointe will pick up the assist on the goal by Blake.
Claude LaPointe. Sunday we'll see Marty LaPointe. And the Detroit Red Wings, our coverage beginning at 12:30 on Fox Sports Net. Now that's too bad, because he made some really nice saves, and you and I were both kind of quietly pulling for that to happen.
Yep. I know everybody in that wild bet certainly was, and a little disappointed they didn't get it, but you know what? He's had a very strong game. He's had the opportunity. He's played well, and he'll get another opportunity down the road.
I think you're exactly right. He's a young man, too. He's 20 years old. 40 seconds remains. The puck is left towards Steve Martins. Gabrick on it. Martins feathers it back behind the net. Loose puck will be gathered in by Lecision. He'll give it a ride over Bramanis and towards Van Beesbrook. Icing's going to be called. Oh. Cairns missed it. Cairns overskated the puck. And so Gabrick comes in. Once again, Tom, thinking about the speed of Marion Gabrick.
Well, you don't miss those type of plays. You can't think about the guy's too far removed from you. You've got to make sure you touch the puck.
Gustafson gets it to Benison. Yeah. Now it's Walls across. Final seconds are going to tick away. Chara delivers it around, and the Minnesota Wild have swept the season series against the New York Islanders, defeating John Van Beesbrook and the Islanders 4-1.
And they want that puck. There's no question that Wes Walls was looking for it right away to give the youngster his puck as his first victory in the National Hockey League in his first game. I mean, that's a tremendous tribute to him, but also you got to give the guys in front of him a lot of credit. They did what they had to do at the defensive zone. They scored the goals they had to do, and it was just a terrific game for the Minnesota team.
And nice to see Zach Burke right out there to give Derek Gustafson a bit of congratulations. His first NHL win in his debut. Derek Gustafson, our Dodge player who made the... For my partner Tom Reed, I'm Mike Goldberg saying so long from Long Island, New York, where Derek Gustafson is victorious in his NHL debut as Minnesota defeats New York by a final of 4-1. The Wild travel home tonight, prepare to battle Chris Chelios, Steve Yzerman, and the red-hot Detroit Red Wings in a Sunday matinee battle at the XL Energy Center right here on Fox Sports Net. Live coverage begins with a pregame report at 12:30 Central Time. Coming up at 9:30 Central, WCHA first round, Michigan Tech at Minnesota. So long, everybody.